when it comes down to it, there is a lot of Arcwing weapons in here. There is the blueprint, yes, just the blueprint for the Voluptus. There is, again, just the blueprint for the Fluctus. Kind of very is with these. There's three different Arcwings in here. All the Arcwings seem to be in here. And there is a new one. The Larkspur. This one, however, you don't need to get the parts for. What you need is a bunch of alloys, a few rare gems. Oh, that fishing resource is a pain, actually. It's not that it's a pain, it's just you will find that used by a lot of different things, and if you are still on the grind of doing the Fortuna stuff, then that can be used ridiculously quickly. Yeah, ridiculously quickly. And then 2 Crimson toroids. The Venedo alloys, fairly common, the Radiant Zodian. You need the blueprint for that, and the blueprint for that. The fishing stuff, you just got to dismantle some servo fish for. This thing's expensive to build, because those toroids are worth 6,000 standing for the Voxeloris. And it also means you have to have got to a point in the game where picking this thing up, considering it is a Mastery Rank 8 weapon, should have been easier to obtain and cheaper to get the parts for. But if you have gotten to the point there, then this thing, it kind of works. I think the best description for this was the Atmos, the secondary. Its alternate fire can be charged up to deal, it's explosive damage, isn't it? Yes, explosive damage on top of the radiation damage. And I accidentally did this once, and I was carrying a canister for the Operation Buried Deaths, and I threw it, which sucked because we kind of needed that, and I had to kind of put my head down in shame and go, oops, my bad. That sucked. That massively sucked. But the damage it did was not as impressive as you would think for a Mastery Rank 8 weapon, that you have to max out the Solaris United and then gain access to the Voxeloris to be able to get the mission, to get the actual, I've completely forgotten the name of it, the Charisma toroid, to build this thing. Especially when you think that along the lines of these, this as an Arcwing gun has no range compared to every other gun apart from the Corvus, which is a more of a short range shotgun type that, well, 704 impact versus this that does 10. Has more crit, way less status, so let's look at this as a status-based shotgun, because that's more what it is like. This should have came with one of those stupid little Gravamag things built into it, because this should never be taken on an actual Arcwing mission. And don't get me wrong here, there's nothing particularly wrong with taking this on an Arcwing mission, but it seems to have a fairly close range ability to it. So its inert radiation damage makes it weak against shielded enemies and things like that. The limited range of, I think it's 200 meters in Arcwing, 40 meters in atmospheric, makes it very, very short range. And then we have the fact that this thing comes with one polarity on it, making building this thing a bigger pain. More so if you haven't put a Gravamag thing in here, you have to do it in Arcwing missions. And unless the Razorback is here, then nobody's playing Arcwing missions anyway, so the Gravamag should have came inertly built into this thing. That would have saved this weapon so much grind. It would have, putting polarities in it would have been so much better, and that is honestly the end of my gripe with this thing. Because once you start to use it in atmosphere with its very short 40 meter range, remembering 200 meters in Arcwing, 400 meters in atmospheric, so the Gravamag actually lowers the range on this thing by quite a lot, you will notice that it has this weird behavior where it acts a lot like that electrical firing. I want to say Atmos, but the Atmos is the one I referred to earlier, which was a secondary, that arcs between enemies. I haven't used that gun in years. I am, of course, referring to the Amprex. I was going to say the Flux Rifle, but no, it's the Amprex. And the way that it did this was actually, it was more visually pleasing than anything else, because the inert radiation might be effective against alloy armor, some of the infected sinew, a little bit of the robotic. The high impact is good against shields, but at the same time the radiation is also weak against shields. And with no puncture and no slash, it's no good against armor or really any kind of high level enemy. But the fact that it was very visually pleasing, and this thing can, if you have the dual stat elemental mods, can get to 100% status, makes this thing just quite useful for defense missions when dealing with crowd control and things like that. But that of course means that you need the magma chamber, hypothermic shell, charged bullets, and the contaminating casing or something weird like that. I have one of these. I have charged bullets. No, I lie. I have magma chamber, but magma chamber came from an event a long time ago. Finding these mods is going to be the biggest problem, because even though you can get a chance of getting things like the charged bullets, from the Prophet Taker, it's the Fomorian Sabotage event thing that these tend to drop from, and I meant to go back in and farm these because I dropped 2. I just assumed that the 2 I had dropped were for this and they were the 2 I was looking for, and it turned out that it wasn't, because one of them was for melee. But with the alternate fire releasing the energy grenade that has an 8-meter radius, this thing is probably by far the best of the Arcwing guns when dealing with crowd control. If the Arc would travel a further, let's stick with the atmosphere for here, 40 meters between enemies, this thing would have been outstanding, to be honest, because you could basically cover an entire map with this thing. It doesn't, but it really, really should have. It kind of lived up to the hype for this thing. It didn't live up to the damage hype side of this, more so considering what it costs to build this thing. I enjoyed using it, but I will not be retiring my Imperator Vandal for this anytime soon, but I think I'm going to leave this, re-equip, because I had to take it off to do something else. I think I'll be re-equipping this, and then when I'm not running things like the Orb Mothers, I will be using this, because this was way better than any of the other Arcwing guns for actual ground close range use. What I need to do is format this thing at least twice more before I can ever suggest a build for this, but I need the dual status elemental mod, and well, I have 2. That one and that one, which won't fit together, so I can't do anything with this until I former it, and then I will probably swap these out and have 3 of the dual stat elemental mods, because I do like my extended magazines and crit chance, and this also saved this a lot. Though the punch through wasn't really needed, it did increase the damage quite a lot. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time!